Hi, I'm Ilan Goldstein, and you're watching the Scrum Shortcut series. In this video, we will be focusing on retrospective focus areas. Now, unfortunately, I've found that when a team is under pressure, the important sprint retrospective is often the first activity to get bumped until life is a bit more relaxed and under control, assuming that moment ever comes, of course. Even I have to admit that in my earlier days as a Scrum Master, I was guilty of skipping the retrospective on occasion. The irony is that this session is most valuable when the pressure is on and or when things aren't running as expected. As such, discipline needs to be maintained, and the sprint retrospective should always remain a consistent fixture at the end of each sprint, irrespective of the noise surrounding it. It is important to remember Scrum's core values of openness, courage, respect, focus, and commitment. Nowhere should these values be applied more rigorously than in the sprint retrospective. Without an atmosphere of openness, you will never get to the heart of issues. Without courage, the team won't be willing to confront problems head on. Without respect, the team won't present criticism in a constructive fashion. And without focus and commitment, the team won't care enough to resolve the issues at hand. Everyone should keep these values in mind at all times. The broader Scrum community seems to be a little divided regarding the question of whether product owners should attend the sprint retrospective. Personally, I believe that they absolutely should attend because they form an integral part of the broader Scrum team. That being said, before your team becomes a well-oiled Scrum machine, there may be a few communication breakdowns, especially between the developers and the product owner. If you do observe any tension, I recommend that in addition to the official retrospective session, the Scrum Master should conduct informal sessions separately with the product owner and the developers alike. To create an atmosphere of openness, the location where you hold your sprint retrospective can make a difference. A large, stuffy boardroom with a long, impersonal mahogany table isn't conducive to the atmosphere you need and may turn your retrospective into more of an inquisition. Instead, I recommend a relaxed setting, such as a coffee shop, a breakout room if you have one, or even the kitchen area, which, because of its proximity to snacks and coffee, can be a great choice. Ideally, you want your team arriving for the retrospective session prepared with a list of issues and suggestions so that you can get straight into it. To help facilitate this preparation, I recommend that you send an email a day or two before the session with a reminder of potential areas to focus on. Examples of key areas include communication, processes, scope, quality, environment, and skills. Let's now explore a sample of some common improvement actions that might be triggered in each of these areas. Let's start with communication, and some suggestions could include fixing disjointed communication between the product owner and development team, especially if the product owner isn't seated among the group. Removing disruptive and unnecessary communication between external stakeholders and the development team. And resolving dysfunctional communication within the development team, typically due to an over-reliance on written documentation and email, rather than face-to-face discussion. Now let's explore some potential process improvements. Upgrading software, hardware, and network connectivity. Confirming that the Scrum processes are well understood and clearly defined. Maintaining engineering standards relating to code quality, source control, and deployment processes. Next, let's focus on potential scope-related issues, such as making certain that significant changes to scope do not occur mid-sprint. Maintaining formatting consistency across all user story descriptions and acceptance criteria. Ensuring that the sprint planning scope is not ill-defined or too vague. Quality is a common discussion topic in retrospectives, especially the following areas: clearly defining and maintaining a consistent definition of done, evolving test practices to enable more mature test automation, ensuring that programmers are assuming ownership for the testing of their code and not leaving it totally up to the testers and/or product owner. Now, ensuring that our working environment is conducive to Scrum is certainly something to discuss in retros, so consider the following discussion points. Maintaining a collaborative environment that isn't too noisy and disruptive. Providing ample air conditioning or heating. And making sure appropriate amenities are available. One microwave isn't going to cut it for 50 people. Ensuring enough whiteboard space and other collaborative tools. Finally, let's make sure that our skills are honed by ensuring that we are providing adequate training when new technologies are required, conducting induction training for any new team members, and obtaining relevant specialist consulting when required. Now, when the juices start flowing, it isn't hard to generate a long list of issues to tackle. The trick is to not fall into the trap of getting overly keen and declaring that every single issue will be resolved by the next retrospective. Instead, ensure that all improvement suggestions are documented, perhaps on an improvement backlog, but aim to be very realistic with regards to how many issues will be tackled by the following retrospective. Nothing loses credibility faster than overpromising and underdelivering. Finally, write the agreed upon actions on a large sheet of paper and place it near the task board as a constant reminder for the team. And if required, also include tasks in the upcoming sprint backlog to ensure that capacity is factored in for these improvements. And that's it for retrospective focus areas. I'll see you in the next video for another Scrum shortcut.